Hello everybody and welcome to another live research session, this time for UFC Korea, which takes place this Saturday. In this video we are going to be taking a deep dive together into the fight between Marc-Andre Barriault and Yong Park, which takes place this weekend. So if you're watching this video after the fact on YouTube, please hit the like button if you like this video, and if you're watching with us live on Twitch, please drop a comment in the live chat, and yeah, we will research this fight together and see what we find. So I've already done a decent amount of research on this fight. I've watched pretty much all of Barriault's fights down to this one here at TKO 39 back in 2017. So I've watched a hell of a lot of footage on Barriault, and the reason why I've gone so deep on Barriault is because I think he might be a decent potential bet. So that's what we're going to try and establish in this video. I've only watched one of Yong Park's fights against Anthony Hernandez. It was his last fight, his UFC debut. But in this video together, we're going to go back and watch these two matchups. Now, unfortunately, these ones aren't available online. These two are, but unfortunately they were so long ago back in 2016 that I don't want to go back and watch them, simply because, you know, I'm sure that Yong Park has improved or changed a lot since then, having fought so many times since 2016. But we can watch these two fights together. This one went the distance, so hopefully we're going to learn a little bit about Yong Park together, and hopefully they're going to confirm how I feel about him from watching the Anthony Hernandez fight, or show us some different things. And also, guys, don't forget that this is an absolutely massive week for betting on MMA. It's absolutely huge. We've got three major MMA events this weekend. We've got Bellator 235 on Friday night. We've got Bellator 236 on Saturday night. We've also got UFC Korea, UFC on ESPN plus 23 on Saturday. And the good news is, if you are a fanatic of MMA and you don't have anything else to do this weekend, well, you'll be able to watch all three of these events. There's no clash, because you've got an event on Friday night, then you've got the UFC Korea that takes place Saturday daytime, and then the Bellator event is Saturday night. You'll be able to watch all three if you want to. So I am a busy bunny this week researching all these fights, and I will be doing a lot more live streams this week on Twitch for the fights we can dive into, where there's a lot of fight footage outside of UFC Fight Pass for us to delve into together. So if you're interested in studying these fights live with me, please check out my Twitch channel. I will leave a link to it in the description below. And also, I will be live streaming my research for these two Bellator cards on my website this week. We've got a built-in live streaming platform on my website, which you can see here. And as soon as liquidity builds up a little bit, and we get odds on a wide range of betting sites for Bellator, then I will schedule in a live stream. So if you're a member on my website, you'll be able to come and watch me live stream Bellator 235 and 236, or not live stream the events, but live stream my research for them. But as you can see at the moment, only a small number of websites have odds out for these fights. There's no point in jumping into them yet. So be sure to check that out on the website if you're one of my members. If you want to be notified when these live streams are going to go live, I highly recommend joining my Telegram group, which I will also link to in the description below. You can see here, anytime I add a new bet to the website, a new live stream to the website, or a new bet to the website, I always let you know on Twitch, so you don't miss out on when the live streams start. And you can join Twitch by clicking the link in the description below from your mobile phone. It'll prompt you to download the Telegram app, and then you'll receive push notifications to your phone whenever a new bet goes up or whenever a new live stream begins. But with further ado, without all the rambling on, let's get into this fight, because I do feel there may be a betting opportunity on this matchup between Barriault and Park. And of course, if you are on Twitch, don't forget to drop some comments in the live chat, and I will talk to you guys as we go. Oh, big shout out to Big Marley. Thanks a lot, dude. Thank you very much, Big Marley, dude. Really appreciate it, man. Hope you did better than me this past weekend, mate. Thought I'd keep it nice. Thought I'd keep it tight. Thought I would keep it. I thought I'd play this past weekend safe. thought, you know what, big pay-per-views, often unpredictable. I'll keep it nice and tight. I'll go with a safe bet. I'll just fire off a moderate bet on Holloway. He's got pretty much every advantage in the book over Volkanovski. And yeah, well, that proved to be extremely wrong because Volkanovski laid the smackdown on Holloway's candy ass. But what could you do? Hopefully this week will be a little bit better. Not too sure about this Korea event, you know. But these Bellator cards, a couple of chalky favourites on there, which could be good for a parlay. Like I say, Barriault might be decent. And also, Barcelos is jumping out at me. And also want to take a look at Mike Rodriguez later on. So never know, man. Might be able to finish the year big with a cheeky little winner. But let's jump into Barriault and Park. So the first thing we'll do is I'll run you guys through what I've already seen from the fights I've watched. And then we'll watch some of Yong Park's fights. So both these guys do have big weaknesses. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If we look at the current odds at the moment, close to even money, Barriault a slight favourite. So if you look at the odds on Park, currently around about 2.0 plus 100, implied probability of 50%. In order to bet Park, you've got to give him a better than 50% chance winning. Based on his UFC debut against Anthony Hernandez, there's no way I can do that. But maybe he'll show us something different in the two fights that we're going to watch of him together. Now, if we look at Barriault, his current average odds are around about 1.80, which is minus 125, which is around about an implied probability of 56%. So if you want to bet Barriault, give him around about a 60% chance of winning. And you know what? That might be possible based on what I've already seen. But this, if you do bet Barriault, before we even get into watching Park, Barriault is a guy that will piss on your chips and let you down because he does have one big weakness that makes him a risk whenever you bet on him. And the risk, in fact, for all the wiki cappers out there, the risk is actually clear to see, plain as day, on his fight record. If you look at Barriault's record, you can see here split decision loss to Jotko, split decision win to Gavrilovic, split decision win over Stout, split decision win over Gavrilovic, and also a split decision loss to Joe Valley. Now these split decisions, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over the last 4 years. These give a clue as to Barriault's weakness. And when you watch him fight, he's just a very, very frustrating guy because he's reasonably good everywhere. Like, this guy ticks so many boxes. Like, he's very tough. As you can see, he's a former 2-division world champion in the biggest MMA promotion in Canada, which is TKO. He's got a great chin, decent cardio, good in the clinch, okay boxing. Like, it's okay boxing for a middleweight, nothing special. You know, decent wrestling, but for whatever reason, this guy is just super passive, and it's kind of like, you can see he tries to be really strategic. He actually tries to demonstrate good fight IQ, but it backfires. He's just trying to be way too tactical in terms of, he understands the importance of stealing rounds, and he understands the importance of conserving energy, but sometimes everything he does is a little bit too deliberate. So, for example, he'll take off far too much time in a round to conserve energy, which will make rounds closer than they need to be, and then he won't pick it up enough when he actually does put his foot on the gas to win his own rounds, which means fights always end up looking close. And another mistake that he makes is he understands the importance of putting his stamp on rounds, but sometimes he leaves it a little bit too late. For example, you know, he'll leave it 30-40 seconds to a minute from the end of the round before maybe shooting a big takedown and trying to end the round with a dominant position, some ground and pound, and that can get him into trouble, because if he does try and put a stamp on the end of a round and his opponent shuts down whatever he's trying to do, it be it they don't engage with him, if he tries to initiate a big strike and exchange, land some big shots, if they don't engage with him, he doesn't achieve his goal. If he doesn't get the takedown, he doesn't achieve his goal. And if he does get the takedown, where his opponent quickly pops back up to their feet, he also doesn't really achieve a lot. So this is clearly a fight to me where Barriault absolutely has all the skills in the world he needs to win this fight. I mean, look, he went to a split decision with Jotko, and we all know how good Jotko is. Barriault there's no doubt about it that Barriault has got all the tools that he needs to beat Jung Young Park. Oh, that was a bit racist. Yong Park. So I get a bit tongue twisted. Yong Park. It's a bit of a tongue twister, so we're just going to call him Park. But yeah, he's got all the skills he needs to beat Park, but whether he will use them or not is another matter. And this is going to be one of those fights where there probably is going to be value on Barriault, but you just have to be comfortable with the fact that if you do bet him, he could very well throw away a victory by demonstrating really poor fight IQ. So if we look where he's been training, you know, we've said Barriault is a guy that ticks so many boxes, and in terms of his training, he also ticks a hell of a lot of boxes. He's a bit of a nomad, you know, when it comes to training, he likes to travel around a lot, move between lots of different gyms. Here we can see him doing a little bit of training at TriStar. This is Nasrat Haqparast. So he spent a little bit of time training at TriStar for this fight. This was a picture that was posted 2 weeks ago. We could also see, if we keep going, this appears to be his own gym. It's kind of like a small regional MMA gym, I guess, in Nova Scotia. Nova Gym. Don't really recognise anyone in this picture, but he does travel around a lot. Here we can see some training pictures of him at Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas. Perhaps he spent a little bit of time down at the UFC Performance Institute. A lot of fighters drop in to Syndicate when they go there. There we can see him with Ngannou. You know, a bunch of UFC and Bellator fighters in this picture. And if we keep scrolling down, this guy does get about quite a lot. We can see him with Frank Mir here. Here he is with Marvin Vettori. Vettori just had a fight announced today. I think he's fighting Darren Stewart on the UFC London card in March. And then if we keep scrolling, I just want to emphasize the point that he does get around quite a bit. I know there's some training pictures of him at other gyms as well. Oh, he's back at TriStar for Asahabi. Alright, anyway, you get the idea. This guy travels around a little bit. So he ticks every box, man. Definitely ticks every box. Very, very good everywhere, really. Decent cardio, good chin, good training pedigree, but very passive at times. So if we consider what Yong Park has brought to the table in the one fight that I've seen from him against Anthony Hernandez, obviously you don't want to be too harsh on him because this is UFC debut. Fighters are never at their best in their debut. But I'm hoping that we'll get to learn a little bit more about him when we watch these two fights. What I can tell you about him from this fight is that he's got decent boxing, but really, really bad takedown defense. And that's where you might start to want to lean towards a bet on Barriault because the odds are roughly even money. You know, there's no doubt really that Park has the advantage over Barriault when it comes to boxing because he's just way busier. You know, Barriault is one of these guys that doesn't really let his hands go that much. You know, he does have a decent amount of power in his hands, but he's quite passive. Park, at least against Hernandez, threw a really good volume of strikes. Quite fast as well. Good footwork, quite accurate. But like I say, his takedown defense really lets him down. Very, 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 very poor takedown defense. And Barriault is a pretty strong wrestler. The only problem with Barriault is he is infuriating in that he doesn't go to his wrestling often enough. So he's definitely got the cardio to wrestle hard for 15 minutes. But for whatever reason, he just chooses not to. He's the kind of fighter that, you know, only will shoot 2 or 3 takedowns per fight. And the irony is, pretty much every time I've seen him shoot a takedown, he's got it. But for whatever reason, just doesn't go to it often enough. And if you're only familiar with Barriault from his 2 fights in the UFC against Jotko and Sanchez, and you're thinking, well, you know, that doesn't sound right because from what I remember, Barriault, he's not a wrestler at all. He's just kind of like a boxer and a clinch fighter. I recommend you go back and watch his fights in TKO. They're all available to watch on UFC Fight Pass. If you go back and watch these fights, you'll see him using a lot of wrestling. Well, I say a lot of wrestling. You'll see him use a lot more wrestling than he did in these 2 fights. Obviously, Jotko and Sanchez are strong wrestlers. You'll see him use a lot of wrestling in these fights, just not enough. Like I say, he only reshoots 2 or 3 takedowns per fight, which is infuriating because if I could trust him to come into this fight on Saturday with a wrestle-heavy game plan, I would have already bet him. But I I'm worried that he's going to try and get into a kickboxing match with Park and lose a decision. But anyway, that's what both these guys bring to the table. If Barriault goes to his wrestling on Saturday night, it should be an easy night's work for him. The irony is, the nickname of Yong Park is the Iron Turtle, which I find quite funny because he is like a turtle off his back. Absolutely no ground game at all. Before we go into watching some of the fights from Park, let me just catch up on this. Let me just catch up on the Twitch live chat. Thank you for everyone that is watching live on Twitch. It's a new interface on Twitch as well that I need to get used to. Hilty saying, I think we just realised the Volk is better than we thought. Didn't think Max fought bad. We just assumed Volk's performance against Aldo was an anomaly. Turns out it wasn't. Yeah, man, Hilts, I agree with you, mate. You know what? It's one of those things where, if we just look at Volkanovski's record, he absolutely honey-dicked me. And I'm sure he completely honey-dicked everyone else as well. Just to go over it quickly, because I know a lot of people are curious what I thought about this fight. It was just a total honey-dick, because if you look at the version of Volkanovski that fought Chad Mendes and Darren Elkins, like, if you go back and watch these fights, like, he took a decent amount of damage standing up against both these guys, including Elkins, which is kind of crazy because Elkins is such a low-level striker. Took damage against these guys, got wobbled against Elkins, got dropped twice against Mendes, was weighing a lot of damage in both fights. And then, of course, the Aldo fight happens, and it's just a weird fight where not a lot happens, but Volkanovski is just slightly busier than Aldo. And you think, well, if this fight's a bit of an anomaly, because in Volkanovski's past fights, he's never shown us an ability to hang with a striker of Aldo's caliber, because his striking looked pretty shit against Mendes and Elkins, to be honest. Like, Mendes was winning the fight standing. You wouldn't say Aldo is a worse striker than Mendes. Certainly not. Aldo's a much higher level striker than Mendes. So you look at this fight an anomaly, and really we just get honey-dicked by these two fights here. Because if Volkanovski showed up and performed like he did in these two fights, Holloway murders him. The problem is he didn't. I think what we saw happen was Holloway showed up and fought like he always does. Starts slow, grows into the fight, sticks to his boxing, likes to pressure people, stands heavy on his lead leg. But he is a slow starter. You always expect Holloway to lose the first or second round, which is why when Volkanovski started that strong, I wasn't even that bothered watching the fight. I expected Holloway to pick it up, and he just never did. We did a little bit, but not enough. So yeah, these two fights completely honey-dicked us, because if Volkanovski showed up performing like he did in these two, Holloway would have dominated. Now, I think what we saw happen was Holloway showed up and performed like he always does, and Volkanovski and his team just totally done their homework on him and were prepared for everything that he brought to the table. It was like everything that Holloway does well, they were prepared for. It was like they were prepared for the third round. Like the third round, when Holloway usually starts to pick the pace up, they were ready for it, and that was actually one of Volkanovski's best rounds. They beat his lead leg up early in the fight. They were spamming leg kicks very, very hard early in the fight, which affected Holloway's mobility, caused him to change stances from orthodox to southpaw midway through the fight, which probably had an effect on his performance. And it was just genius, really. I mean, we've never really seen him throw leg kicks like that before. We threw maybe 7 or 8 in the Aldo fight. Didn't really go to leg kicks that often against Mendes. Elkins didn't have to in these two fights because he used his wrestling. So yeah, these two matchups completely honey-dicked us. And with Volkanovski, it just seems like a guy who is just really intelligent. I don't actually think he's the most skilled guy, but it's quite clear that he and his team are extremely good at breaking a fighter down, figuring out a solution to the puzzle that is the fighter that he's going to be facing, and game planning for it and winning. And I mean, his record shows that. I mean, this guy is a winner, 21-1. You can't argue with that. And it turns out that this fight against Aldo wasn't an anomaly at all. And he just, as well as solving the Holloway puzzle, he solved the Aldo puzzle. But it made it difficult to arrive at that conclusion for these two past fights because of how scrappy and sloppy his striking looked in these two matchups. But I think it really just come down to the point where I mean, I don't know. Maybe Volkanovski just thought, I can just break these two guys with my work ethic and grit and determination, and I don't mind getting into a bit of a scrappy war with these two boys. But then when I face higher level technical strikers like Aldo and Holloway, I gotta get my shit together and fight a picture perfect fight, and that's exactly what he done. So yeah, man, I agree with you, Hiltz. I don't think Max fought bad at all. I think Max fought like he usually does. And I think Volk is just incredibly good at game planning. But unfortunately, man, it's just not one of those bets you can get away from. Based on these two fights, Holloway ticked just about every box you could want. And I thought Holloway was going to win easily. But what can you do, man? Hopefully we can get back in black this weekend. What other comments have we got? Yeah, the Axel is saying that he forgot Barriault split decision with Jotko. It was a close fight, and I rate Jotko highly. Yeah, for sure, man. Jotko is a beast, dude. So Axel also saying he thinks Volkanovski gets rolled over by Yair, Zabit, and Korean Zombie. Thing is, though, man, right, let's be real. You literally can't count Volkanovski out against anyone now. Because, like, realistically, if you go back and watch the Elkins and Mendes fights, he took so much damage in those two fights. He got dropped twice by Mendes, wobbled by Elkins. Aldo and Holloway, when it comes to striking, are light years ahead of these two guys. And Aldo and Holloway couldn't get near him. So that's 25 minutes against Holloway, 15 minutes against Aldo, and he was never in danger. Like Holloway couldn't hurt him with anything. He was like a ghost in there. Same with Aldo. So can't count him out against anyone, mate. You know what I mean? I will not be betting on Volkanovski again, because I will not be but betting against Volkanovski ever again, because you never know what version of him is going to show up. He's obviously so intelligent, constantly improving, constantly evolving. He's a beast, man. I will never doubt him again. And yeah, the Axel Semno2 saying, feel Barriault's fight IQ is pretty damn low. Unfortunately, it is, dude. Zyrex saying, Holloway let me down for 20 grand. Ah, Jesus, mate. Unlucky, dude. I think Holloway probably let a lot of people down this weekend, man. I say he ticked just about every box you could want when betting on a fighter. Yeah, I lost a fair few grand as well, mate. Not as much as 20 grand, but yeah, it was a big loss for me as well, mate. Axel saying lost a few grand because of Holloway and also Nunes not winning under 3 rounds. I know, man. Nunes, what the fuck happened to Nunes, dude? What happened to Nunes? Seriously, like, Durandame showed up looking like she'd never taken a jiu-jitsu class before. How Nunes didn't get a finish, I will never know. That was a really, really strange fight. T-Yas MMA is saying if he learns to check leg kicks, I think he takes the rematch. It's difficult to say, man, because on one hand, like, the leg kicks were definitely a big factor because they enabled Volkanovski to put a big stamp on the first and second rounds, and then they also clearly hurt Holloway because he had to switch his stance from orthodox to southpaw halfway through. So yeah, the leg kicks are a big factor, and it's difficult to measure, I guess, how much the leg kicks impaired Holloway's ability to fight to his full potential. But at the same time, let's be real, Volkanovski outboxed him as well. It wasn't just the leg kicks. Holloway couldn't get near him, and I feel like, you know, Volkanovski outstruck him with the boxing as well. So it's tough to say, man. Maybe Holloway got hurt really bad off those leg kicks, and that affected his ability to open up with his boxing, and then that made Volkanovski's advantage striking look bigger than it actually is in reality. And in a rematch, Holloway might do a lot better, but I don't know, man. It's a tough one. It was a tough one. So I'm not going to repeat the username, because the username, I made a mistake being racism early towards Park by mispronouncing his name, and I'm not going to repeat this guy's username because this one could definitely get me into trouble. But someone is saying I was big on Volkanovski. I was fairly confident the leg kicks of cardio would make it a tough night for Max. But you know what, dude? I honestly couldn't. I really strongly disagree with you, mate. And I feel like even though Volkanovski won, I feel like that was a big mistake to look at the fight like that, because Volkanovski's never really gone the leg kicks that much in the past. Like, it's okay to say in hindsight, oh, I knew the leg kicks would be an issue because Max never checks leg kicks. But, like, Volkanovski, the leg kicks aren't really his thing. Like, he threw, like, a few against Aldo. Didn't throw that many against Elkins and Mendes. Like, to say you based your betting decision on Volkanovski's leg kicks, it's a bit of a stretch, man, for me. Because the footage just didn't show that beforehand. A lot of people are coming out of the woodworkers saying that after the fact, and it does make my eyes roll a little bit, because if you would have done your homework on the fight, Volkanovski's leg kicks wouldn't really have been a concern. Yes, Max doesn't check leg kicks, but at the same time, leg kicks have never really been that big of a weapon that Volkanovski's used. Obviously, he's looked at the fact Holloway doesn't check leg kicks, and then thought, well, that's a weakness that I can exploit, and he's turned up with a leg kick heavy game plan, which has essentially been a massive contributing factor to him winning the title. Congratulations. But at the end of the day, I mean, come on, how often do fighters have a clear path to victory and they don't take it? Or how often do you see fighters matched up against an opponent with a clear and obvious weakness that they don't exploit? I mean, we're looking at a fight right here which is a perfect example of that. Like, Barriault, all he needs to do is use his wrestling and he'll beat Park easily. But because of how inconsistent fighters are and how you cannot trust them to fight to their strengths, or take the easiest path to victory, or exploit their opponent's weaknesses, you can't automatically go and bet on Barriault. So while, yes, Holloway did have a weakness and Volkanovski did turn up and exploit it, the actual percentage of fighters that you can count on to show up and exploit their opponent's weaknesses, it's actually surprisingly low. And to say you knew Volkanovski would be the type of guy that did that based on his past performances, for me, is a giant stretch. I think it is a little bit of playing captain hindsight, but that is just my opinion. So Axel702 saying, Zabit and Korean Zombie are a little too lethal to anybody. Does that mean you think Korean Zombie's going to beat Frankie this weekend, man? Let me know, dude. Let me know. Irish Brother said Holloway never showed up and Aldo was robbed. Volk stuck to his game plan. What can you say? That's the thing, man. See, I'm disagreeing with everyone on this live stream. I agree with Hiltz. I do think Holloway showed up. I think that was Holloway at his best. I really do. I just think Volkanovski's so intelligent, and I think Volkanovski has such a good team behind him. They just looked at all the things Holloway does well, and they had a solution to every single one of the things that he did well. And it was a masterful performance, just completely systematically broke Holloway down and beat him at everything he does well. It was kind of like for every one of Holloway's strengths, they had like a kryptonite for it. It like a solution to it. It was fucking great. I couldn't fully enjoy it because obviously I had a lot of money on Holloway, but you got to appreciate it, man. So I don't think it was Holloway never showed up. I think it was just Volkanovski really showed up, and that's something you don't see many MMA fighters do, when they just literally show up for the first time ever with like a tailor-made strategy to dominate their opponent. It was fucking great, really. It was really, really good. Oh, thanks a lot, G-Town, for subscribing on Twitch with your Amazon Prime membership, mate. I really appreciate that, dude. Oh, you guys are talking a little bit about the Moraes versus Aldo fight, right? Boys, I disagree with you strongly, man. Let me show you why. So a lot of people are saying Aldo got robbed. I actually thought it was a clear win for Marlon Moraes. I thought Marlon Moraes won the fight clear. It was visually close, but in terms of the way MMA fights are scored, I think it was quite a decisive and clear win for Moraes, and I will talk you through the reasons why it was a clear win for Marlon Moraes. So, round one, absolutely Marlon Moraes, no doubt about it. Like, the first round, there's no way you can score round one for Aldo, because if you go back and watch the fight, Moraes wobbled Aldo with a head kick in like the first minute. So if you go back and watch the fight, right in the first minute of the fight, Moraes wobbled Aldo. His legs went from underneath him. He recovered well, but that was the most significant thing to happen in the round. Moraes also outstruck Aldo 18 strikes to 15, and Moraes also finished the round in a dominant position. So round one, absolutely Marlon Moraes. There's no way you can score round one for Jose Aldo. Then in round two, Aldo really picked up the pace. He went to his jab, started to work the body of Moraes, and round two was a very, very dominant round for Aldo. Aldo did great in round two. The jabs really started to zap the energy, or the jabs and the body work really started to zap the energy out of Moraes. Aldo took control of the centre of the octagon, just stalked Moraes around the octagon and just chipped away at him with jabs, ended up outstriking him by a wide margin. So first round clear Moraes, second round clear for Aldo. Going into the third round, it was a 50-50 fight, and I do think Marlon Moraes won the third round clear. If you go back and watch the third round with a Hawkeye, you will see that even though Aldo was being the aggressor and controlling the centre of the octagon, he wasn't really landing that much. And remember, under the new judging scoring criteria that came into play in January 2017, octagon control and aggression is no longer a scoring factor. So it doesn't matter that Moraes was the guy backing up and Aldo was the aggressor. It absolutely doesn't matter. It should not factor into your decision making. Now, if you go back and watch that third round, I don't know why this happened, but Aldo completely abandoned the jab in this round. And as you can see, in round two, he landed 28 strikes, but in round three, he only landed 15. And as you can see, Moraes outstruck Aldo by 5 strikes in round 3. And if you go back and watch it, Moraes was actually the fighter that landed the bigger, harder, more significant, meaningful shots in round 3. If you also go back and watch the third round, it was also quite clear with a minute left to go in round 3, Aldo felt that the fight was slipping away from him. So Aldo picked the pace up in the final minute of round 3, but that actually led to him getting overly aggressive and a little bit reckless. And that enabled Marlon Moraes to land some big shots and combinations at the very end, like the last 30-40 seconds of round 3, which I feel put the stamp on the fight for me. So for me, it was a clear as day win for Marlon Moraes. Round 1 and round 3 for him all day. And I feel like if you're scoring this fight for Aldo, I just feel like you might not fully understand the scoring criteria in MMA, because octagon control and aggression are no longer a factor at all. They mean nothing under the new scoring. So Moraes outstruck him in round 3, wobbled him, outstruck him, finished the round with a dominant way in round 1 in top position. I don't even feel this was a close fight. It was visually close in that it looked close and competitive, but if you're scoring the fight on the 10-round must system, Moraes all day is not even a discussion for me. What have we... Oh, loads of comments are flowing in, boys. This is good, man. Keep them coming. So Tayes MMA saying that the leg kicks hindered Max from opening up with his typical flurries, and it'll be interesting if Max gets an immediate rematch. So you know what, guys, right? I got an interesting theory about this Holloway versus Volkanovski fight. So in the post-fight press conference, Volkanovski didn't look like he cared that much that he lost. He really didn't. And in the post-fight press conference, Dana White said that Holloway would be getting an immediate rematch. He's been such a dominant champion. It was a semi-competitive fight. They're going to do an immediate rematch, which I thought was really interesting, because for me, you usually only see an immediate rematch on a title fight when, like, it's a competitive fight. Like, for example, like Colby Usman. Everyone want to see that again. But for me, Volkanovski won so dominantly, I don't personally see the need for a rematch. But Dana said they are definitely doing a Volkanovski-Holloway rematch. And then on his YouTube channel, if we take a look at it here, I watched it earlier on. Where is it? Where is it? So Max Holloway's got his own YouTube channel. So in this video, he actually says that he doesn't want to fight Volkanovski again. He doesn't want a rematch. Now, I have a little conspiracy theory as to what has actually happened with Holloway this past weekend. And a lot of you will probably disagree with me, but this is what I think might have happened. So usually when a champion loses their belt, they will do anything they can to get it back. Like, you will see Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she still is defined by being Joanna champion. She wants the belt so bad, and when a champion loses that belt, it's like a part of them is gone, and they will do whatever they can to get it back. But there is other situations where the pressure of being a champion weighs on a fighter so much they just don't want the belt anymore. They can't wait to get rid of it. And GSP talked a lot about this towards the end of his first stint of his career. When he struggled a little bit against Carlos Condit, and then when he eventually was gifted a decision against Johnny Hendricks, he spoke in the post-fight press conference after that Hendricks fight, and he spoke on the Joe Rogan podcast since, where he has said the pressure of being a champion just weighs so heavy on you, and then when you finally give the belt up, it's such a relief. And in the last 12 months, we've seen, Jessica Andrade almost happy to lose her belt against Weili Zhang. When she lost against Zhang, she jumped up and she was almost smiling immediately at the relief of not having to carry the weight of being the champion anymore. We saw the same thing when Rose Namajunas lost her belt. Immediately she was relieved, and to some extent, even though we didn't immediately see it when Cyborg lost to Amanda Nunes, after the fight, she talked openly about being relieved that she'd lost the title and that it was such a weight carrying it for so long. And I feel like we may have seen the same sort of thing happen with Holloway. He looks up to GSP in a big way. He called his son Rush. He talks about Toronto and Canada being like his favourite place in the world. He always in his interviews references George St. Pierre if ever he's asked who he thinks is the greatest fighter of all time. And I think leading up to this fight, it's very, very likely, or I was thinking, before today, that Holloway is a guy that might have just not wanted to be the champion anymore, as crazy as that sounds, but it is something a lot of previous champions have talked about. And then this interview with Max, or this Q&A where he opens up about the fight, just confirmed that to me, because he says that he doesn't want a rematch with Volkanovski. Now, you imagine Joanna Jędrzejczyk if after she lost her belt, they offered her a rematch against, against Rose Namajunas. She would have taken it straight away. It's just one of those things where it's like, mentally, did he want to be the champion anymore? Does he want to be the champion anymore? Or is he now happy just to be another fighter who could just fight for a living without having the spotlight on him and the weight of carrying the belt on his shoulders? Something interesting for you guys to think about anyway. Oh, nice one, Solar Cowboy, as well, man, for subscribing on Twitch using your Amazon Prime. Thanks a lot, dude. Really appreciate that, mate. So, Axel, you've used an interesting word there. So, Axel is saying Morales won round 1 and Edge round 3, but Aldo controlled the entire fight after round 2. That the key word there is control, mate, because control means nothing. You don't score points for controlling. You score points for effective grappling, effective striking, and damage inflicted. Control means nothing. Yeah, Irish Brother again saying round 3 Aldo controlled the octagon from round 2 to 3. Octagon control means nothing. It is no longer a scoring criteria. Pre-January 2017, Aldo probably won the fight with octagon control. Octagon control post-January 2017, octagon control means absolutely nothing. Axel 702, aggression does not count anymore. It did pre-January 2017. It doesn't anymore. They changed the scoring criteria. Alright, boys, let's get into this fight then. Let's get into this fight. I've spoken about Barriault. Now let's watch a little bit about Park. So the first fight we're going to watch is a short one. is from around about this time last year, so almost an entire year ago, against Matvey Ivanenko. So let's take a look at this one. It's not this one actually, it is this one. So Park, the guy in the red shorts, and he wins by knockout, so I'm guessing you're going to see a little bit of his boxing here. So the thing is, in terms of technique, like Park doesn't have a huge technical advantage over Barriault when it comes to boxing, but he's just way busier. Like Barriault is just incredibly passive, just doesn't let his hands go. And obviously you see Park much busier. Very, very nice right hand there for a quick knockout inside 49 seconds. So that's the first fight that we're going to watch from Park. Don't learn too much about him there, so let's go and watch this fight from Way of the Dragon back in July 2018, so about 18 months ago now. And let's see what this fight presents us. So I've never watched this fight before. Again, Park in the red shorts. So one thing I like about Park is that he's about the same size as Barriault, at least by the tail of the tape. You know, we can see Barriault 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach. Park is 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach, but he just moves much better than Barriault. So when you look at Barriault fight, he's a lot. He just looks like a physically bigger man. He did fight for TKO in Canada at light heavyweight. He had a few fights at middleweight, few fights at light heavyweight, but it just seems like much bigger, like much clunkier, much slower. Whereas what I really like about Park is, you know, light on his feet, fast hands, very, very active. And Barriault doesn't really have the best striking defense. I think if this fight stays standing, you know, Park should be able to outstrike him by a very wide margin. Hey, Mastered by Jazz, how you doing, man? Good to see you, mate. Very nice counter right hand there from Park. What I have noticed is that when Spav is coming forward, Yong Park is kind of like just putting his head down, biting on his mouthpiece, and just swinging hooks to try and back him up. Now that is potentially a little weakness in Park, because Barriault, he loves to dirty box. He loves to fight in the clinch, loves to drive his opponents into the clinch and beat them up. Not incredibly effective in that position, but that is what he likes to do a lot of. And what's interesting is, with the way that Park backs up and just starts winging hooks as his opponent comes forward, it should be quite easy for Barriault to back him up and tie him up and put him against the cage, where he can start working his takedowns and his dirty boxing. Now Barriault looks Park looks very, very good in this kickboxing range, but even there, you know, when Spav was getting lit up, look how easy it still was for Spav to walk through Park's shots and back him up, and even there we see it again. But I do love how busy Park is, and there we see really how easily Spav has been able to drive Park into the cage there. You know, Park has remained very busy with his strikes, but he still wasn't able to back him up. And in the end, Spav found it quite easily to drive him into the cage and now get some control going. So Spav looks like he's got control of Park's body. And there you see, guys. So I'll just pause it there for a sec. You know, in the early part of this live stream, I was talking about how poor Park's takedown defense looked in his UFC debut against Anthony Hernandez, and we are seeing it there. Spav easily puts Park on his back. I mean, very, very easily went down there. I mean, look at this. We'll replay it one more time. But he gets to the body lock. Not here, but as he drives Park into the cage, goes to the body lock there, hands connected together, and then really, once you start to see Spav attempt the takedown, he doesn't even have to fully commit to it. Park just kind of falls over, and then a crucial piece of this sequence is that here, you know, what a fighter, what Park should be trying to do in this position is post with his left hand on the canvas to prevent his opponent from being able to flatten his shoulder out, and he should be trying to keep his back tight to the cage so that he can then use the cage to stand back up. But instead, Park does something that you should never do, which shows an extremely low-level ground game, an extremely low-level grappling defense. He actually allows Spav to flatten his shoulders out on the canvas. So we'll hit play here. Look, he just enables him just to flatten him out, which is absolutely terrible. Now, Barriault, when he does get his opponents down, has a reasonably heavy top game, but what we want to see is how much success Park has working his way back to his feet here, and he does pretty well to get back up. Doesn't really use the correct technique because he's exposed his back to his opponent. You know, someone, you know, with a higher level ground game would have been able to have taken his back there and put him in an even worse position, but on this occasion Park gets away with it, and he might also be able to get away with it against a guy like Barriault, because Barriault, even though he's got a heavy ground game, you know, if he can flatten his shoulders out from top position, it's not going to be easy to, you know, get back up. At the same time, he's not the kind of dangerous submission grappler that's going to bait you into giving you back up and then jump all over you and take you back. I don't think Park will have to worry too much about that from Barriault. But here we see more of the good boxing from Park. Very nice jabs, very, very fast hands. And one thing I am looking forward to seeing in this matchup is where we look at the outcome of Park's UFC debut against Anthony Hernandez. You can see that he lost the fight by Anaconda choke, and what happened was the fight looked very similar to this one, but Hernandez kept taking Park down, and the more that Park got taken down, the more tired he became, and eventually in round 2 he faded, and that enabled Hernandez to submit him because Park just didn't have the energy to defend himself anymore. Now what's interesting here is, you know, will we see Park slow down here in this fight if Spav can keep initiating this grappling, or will Park's cardio hold up? Because he's fighting at quite a high pace here. You know, his output's very high with his boxing. You know, he has been taken down and been forced to work his way back to his feet. For the first part of this round, at least, he has been forced to fight on the back foot. But now he's the aggressor, and hands looking very, very good here against Spav. He had Spav hurt bad at the end of that round. But what I'm interested to see is how Park's cardio holds up here, because he's exerted a lot of energy in this first round, and he did slow down in his UFC debut against Hernandez. But did he slow down in his debut because it was his debut, he adrenaline dumped and octagon jitters got the better of him, or is his cardio bad? What I'm trying to say is his cardio usually good, but the octagon jitters got to him, the adrenaline dumped, or, you know, is his cardio just bad? And if his cardio is bad, you would see him slow down in this fight as well. Just catch up on any questions. Oh, hello, Rolandito. Rolandito, one of my VIP members, man, on my website. Great to see you, dude. And beep beep in my Jeep, another one of my VIP members. Good to see you, man. Good to see you saying that Park has got fast hands and a good jab. He does, man. And also Texas, another one of my VIPs. Good to see you, dude. Great to see you, boys. And remember, boys, if you like the live streams and you remember my website, we're going to be live streaming all my research for the 2 Bellator events this week. So tons of live streams coming, and they are going to be on my website. Just roll the mouse over community live streams, and here we've got the live stream page. And as soon as we get odds out for Bellator 235 and 236, we will schedule in the time those live streams are going to start. So here we see Spav realising that he's getting lit up in boxing range and chooses to shoot a takedown here. Can he complete it? He's got a body lock. He's got both his hands connected together. So remember, in the first round, This was where the takedown started in the first round for Spav. He got to the body lock, and then he easily dragged Park to the ground. And again, wow, look at that. I was actually about to pay Park a compliment. I was actually about to say he's doing a really good job of defending this takedown. He's doing a good job of clearing his legs and maintaining balance. You could see that Spav struggled with the initial body lock takedown. So he does a couple of things here. He struggles with the initial body lock takedown, so he tries to move further to the back here so that he could kind of catch Park off balance and complete the throw. Park actually does a good balance of maintaining, or actually does a good job of maintaining good balance here and also clearing his legs. Here you can see another technique the Spav could have potentially chained into from this body lock takedown to complete the takedown would have been a trip takedown. But here, this position's critical because at the point where Spav may start to think about a trip takedown, you see Park actually do a very, very good job of clearing his leg, which means the trip takedown is no longer there. And just when you think that Park is out of trouble, because really, you know, Spav is in a bit of a desperate position here where he's kind of just lost everything. He's just leaning on Park. All Park has really got to do is clear his legs here, and he will have defended the takedown. But instead, you know, here Park's not in any trouble. You see he's got a deep underhook on the left side. I don't even know if Spav gets this takedown. Spav literally has nothing. You know, deep underhook in play on the left side. I can't see the right side because of this camera angle, but I'm guessing there's a good chance Park has got an underhook on the right side as well. His legs are clear. You know, his legs are well positioned. He's in a very, very strong position to stuff this takedown. Spav has nothing here. He's just on his knees. There's no drive. And then Park literally just sits down. Like, Park literally sits down. Like, shocking. Like, Park gave him that takedown on a plate. Like, Spav had nothing. You know, there was a critical point there where Park could literally have just broken the grip with deep underhooks and backed away, and he just sat down. But, you know, just like in the first round, Park has done a good job of immediately popping back up to his feet. And we'll see what else Spav can get going here. Hey, good to see you, Katza. Hope you're doing all right, mate. So here we see, again, Spav in on the body lock. Hasn't let the body lock go in this second round. Still got his hands connected together. Park really struggling to break the grip here. Spav threatening to change levels there to commit hard to another takedown. And again, just drags Park to the ground. What I really like about what Spav is doing, though, and a slight mistake Park is making, is even when Park is popping back up to his feet, Spav's still doing a really good job of maintaining the body lock. If Park really wanted to get out of this position, what he should be focusing on is breaking the grip of Spav, and then Spav wouldn't be able to keep dragging him down like this and controlling him against the cage. And as I say that, he actually does. Yeah, in fact, Park didn't actually break the grip there. If you notice what happened, Spav started throwing short shots because he realised that he couldn't hold Park down, and then that just gave Park a window of opportunity to pivot and turn into Spav, which meant that Spav lost the position. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that Park worked particularly hard to break the grip there. So remember what we were talking about. Oh, and again, I mean, slightly better takedown defense there. Slightly better takedown defense where Park gets square to Spav. You see on this entry, good entry here. He's got square to him, strong hips. But the mistake he makes, or actually not so much of a mistake, actually, obviously in this position when you're sprawling out of a takedown, you want to try and clear your legs. But Spav's actually did a really good job at tying up the left leg here and basically ankle picking him to the ground, which is very, very nice. But remember, what we want to keep an eye on here is this fight is actually looking a lot like Park's UFC debut against Anthony Hernandez, where, you know, at the beginning of the fight in round one, Park looked great, very light on his feet, good boxing, fast hands, great jab. And then as Hernandez started to have more and more success as the fight wore on, you started to see Park get more and more tired, became a little bit sloppier, a little bit more complacent. The takedowns started to come easier for Hernandez, and then Park didn't have as much energy to quickly pop back up to his feet. So we're around about the halfway mark in this fight now, and I'm looking forward to seeing if that is what unfolds here. We see Park again do a good job of popping back to his feet. Here we can see, so there's the first clue there, guys, that Park is starting to get a little bit tired here. We are getting a bit of stream lag, but if we just rewind, just subtle tells that give away the Park is tired. Remember how light on his feet he looked. Remember how well he was moving in round 1. Well, when they've stood back up from this grappling exchange, look at what happens here. You see Yong Park bounce around on the spot, shake his arms out, and take a deep breath. It happens now. Check it out. See? This is Park looking very tired there. That's a subtle tell that Park is starting to get tired. And notice as he throws that jab out there, nowhere near as much pop on that jab as he had in the first round of this fight, and also the first round of his last fight against Anthony Hernandez. And now you see, with all the grappling, his hand speed is just much slower. You know, remember the counters that he was catching Spav with, you know, in the first half of this fight, you know, in the first round. And now, you know, Park's letting his hands go, landing some good shots there, but that's mostly because Spav is also tired, as Spav is stood right in front of him. Another easy takedown there for Spav. And I mean, another sign that Park is starting to get tired. You look at this position there. So Spav has completed the takedown, but he hasn't established a dominant position yet. There is a solid opportunity here for Park to push down on Spav's head, slip his legs out and explode back to his feet, like he has been doing all fight really, with various different techniques. Here we can see he's starting to push the head down there, but instead of showing urgency to clear his legs, he actually just dilly-dallies. I mean, if you look at this, Spav has absolutely nothing in this position. Park's done a great job of clearing the right leg. Park's done a good job of pushing down on the head. All Park has got to do now is get his back tight to the cage, slip his left leg out, and he is completely out of danger. But instead, somehow, I don't even know how it happens, he winds up just giving control of his other leg back to Spav and enabling Spav to get in the top position and in deep on his legs again. It's just really bad fundamental takedown defense from Park in pretty much every way. And here we can see he's taking big deep breaths in this position. So looks to me like Park could definitely be a guy with questionable cardio, because he also slowed down midway through the second of his UFC debut, so it looks like that wasn't just a one-off due to it being his debut. It actually looks like it might be an issue with him. And what's interesting is, you know, we said that Barriault is passive, but we said that Barriault's passive, you know, he's not the kind of guy to really let his hands go, not the kind of guy to shoot a very high number of takedowns. But if you go back and watch Barriault's last 2 fights against Andrew Sanchez and Krzysztof Jotko, one of the things that you will see that he loves to do is that he loves to dirty box. He loves to beat his opponents up in the clinch and grind on him in the clinch. And of course, you know, that might actually be a better strategy than trying to take Park down, because whereas Park is pretty good at just powering his way back to his feet, if you actually start to wear on this guy in the clinch and beat him up with dirty boxing in the clinch, you might actually see him gas out even faster. Now, Park's calling Spav on, but it's quite clear that at this point in the fight, Spav is also hurt quite bad. So, you know, no surprise that the Park is starting to have, you know, success towards the end of this second round. Beep beep in my Jeep is saying maybe Park's one of those fighters who's very dangerous with their hands in round 1 but falls apart later in the fight. Yeah, looks like he might be, mate, especially if you can make him work really hard in the first round. Axel702 saying Park has a lot of finishes. I'm not sure the longest he's ever been in a fight. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That is a good point. Now, decisions early in his career, but then lots of finishes. Take some big deep breaths here in between rounds. So Beep Beep in my Jeep is saying we need to see Barriault's defense early in the fight. So Barriault's defense isn't great, but he is a tough motherfucker. He's got a very good chin, and Barriault's cardio is pretty damn good. Barriault's cardio is not a problem. Axel 702 saying maybe Barriault will be a good bet if he decides to smother Park. Yeah, that's really the question here. I mean, like, Barriault absolutely has the skills to win. He is a strong wrestler. He does. Oh, that's a very, very nasty cut there under the eye of Spav. But yeah, Barriault is very strong in the clinch. He is a very strong wrestler. The only problem with Barriault is that he's very passive and he just doesn't do a lot. Like, you just want to shake him and tell him, man, just fucking pick the pace up. You see, he's fought to so many split decisions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the last 4 years. And he's fought to so many split decisions because of how passive he is. And, even going to a split decision against that super high-level guy like Jotko would wreck a guy like Park simply because he would just take this guy down and absolutely dominate him on the ground. But Barriault's one of these guys that is always going to make a fight close because he just doesn't open up, doesn't let his hands go, doesn't shoot enough takedowns. But what I will say is this: he's obviously taken his career seriously, trained at some very, very serious gyms like TriStar, like Syndicate MMA. And he's on a 2-fight losing streak, man. He has to know that if he loses this weekend to Park, he's going to get released from the UFC. So maybe for once he will show up and fight at a high pace and fight intelligently. And if he does, should be an easy night's work for him. We're into the third round now. So Spav looking very, very tired here in round 3. And you can see Park's clearly a bit tired here as well because his output has dropped a lot. You remember how light on his feet he looked in round 1, how many jabs he was throwing, how busy he was. Park's definitely tired here. So big cardio advantage for Barriault, no doubt about it. We've seen Park slow down in his last 2 fights now. Or not last 2 fights, 2 of his last 3 fights against Hernandez and also Spav. And you look at this, we're 2 minutes into this third round now. Because both guys are tired, neither of them have really done too much. On the other hand, maybe Park is just fighting really intelligently here because he knows he's up 2 rounds. All the damage he was able to inflict on Spav in the first and second. Maybe he just doesn't want to put himself in any trouble here. Maybe he's just thinking, if I just take this round off, avoid engaging, don't put myself in any danger, I can win an easy decision here. So maybe Park is fighting smart. Can't be too critical of him for his output dropping. It's actually quite an intelligent thing to do. So Axel 702 is saying that going 15 minutes in a competitive fight is hard, and Park hasn't really fought anyone that good, whereas Barriault did a great job against Jotko. Really good point, mate. I think he will in this fight. He knows he's fighting for his career this time. Those split decisions are bad. So yeah, good point from Axel. Axel is I mean, it's a bit like with it was like we could talk about this fight in the Volkanovski capacity, right? Because the problem is, how often do we look at stuff fighters say in interviews, or we look at their improvement trajectory, or we look at a guy, this got a very good stylistic matchup in front of them, and they've got the skills to really exploit one particular weakness of their opponent and take an easy win. And so often, for whatever reason, they don't take that easiest path to victory. It's very rare they do. You know, sometimes they do, like with Volkanovski this past weekend against Holloway, but more often than not, they don't. So while we can clearly see that all Barriault needs to do to win this fight is take Park down and beat him up on the ground. And he needs to do that because he's on a 2-fight losers streak. And if he loses another fight, he's going to lose his job in the UFC and possibly his career. You know, he's training full time. He's traveling all around the United States or Canada at different gyms. He clearly wants to be a professional fighter, but to be a professional fighter, he has to win on Saturday night. And we know this. But history being history, and knowing how rarely fighters actually take the easiest path to victory for themselves, it wouldn't surprise me if Barriault does come out like he always does, put in a really passive performance, only shoots 1 or 2 takedowns in the fight, gets his face boxed off and loses another split decision. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because that's what happens more often than not with these UFC fighters. Volkanovski is the outlier, and you guys know me, I always say stick to the general rule. Yes, occasionally guys like Volkanovski will show up with a masterful performance and it completely show up with a game plan that exploits all of their opponent's weaknesses, but they are few and far between, and you should stick to the general rule and always judge a fighter based on their previous opponents, because you know what they say, man, a leopard never changes his spots, and we are creatures of habit. And it's not always easy to just change a fighting style or change a mentality, because realistically, Barriault has fought to so many split decisions in his career. Like I say, 5 in the last 4 years. If he hasn't realised by now, he needs to pick the pace up and do more. You know, maybe he never will. So while you would think this weekend Barriault will really get after it, I won't hold my breath until I see it. And Axel 702 also saying that Park will have home advantage and won't have to do any travelling. Not sure how many times Barriault has fought outside Canada. Yeah, that's another good point, man. I don't think Barriault has fought outside of Canada, you know. All these TKO fights were in Canada. And where were these? This was in Canada, Ontario. And this was in Canada, in Edmonton, Alberta. So yeah, I don't think Barriault's got much experience fighting outside of Canada. So yeah, that could also help Park, man. Could help Park's cardio, his fight preparation to be fighting in Korea. So yeah, boys, that's pretty much it. We've seen everything we need to see for the Park versus Barriault fight. What I would say is, in my opinion, there's no way that you can bet Park here, because his takedown defense is too damn bad, and Barriault definitely has the offensive wrestling to exploit that. And I mean, there might be a bit of value on Barriault here. It's not a bet I'm going to jump into. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I'm going to think about this fight. I'm going to put a bit more thought into this fight, sleep on this fight, put some more consideration into what I'm going to do, because Barriault is not going to be a safe bet. You know, you can see the amount of split decisions he's got himself into, and at the end of the day, like Axel said, he is travelling to Korea to fight a Korean who will have home advantage on their side. You know, the judging on these Asian events is notoriously bad, notoriously inconsistent. So, you know, you look at Barriault at slightly even money, you know, 1.80 is current odds, close to even, which is minus 125. And in order to win a decision in Korea, he's really going to have to put his stamp on rounds. And historically, it doesn't matter whether he's fighting, you know, a very low-level opponent like Joe Valley or Gavrilovic, or a high-level opponent like Jocko. He seems to match their level of output, their level of skill, and he seems to make fights closer than they need to be. And you certainly don't want to be going to Korea and getting into a close fight with a Korean. Having said that, Barriault has all the skills he needs to win. You know, all the skills he needs in order to win this fight dominantly and decisively is really going to come down to his mentality, his fight IQ, and, you know, whether he shows up and puts in another passive performance, or if he actually shows up, drives Park into the cage, gets this fight to the ground, and dominates with his wrestling. Who knows, man? I hope you found the information in this live stream useful. Don't forget, there'll be a lot more live streams this week on both Twitch for the UFC and my website for Bellator. So if you want to watch those live streams that are coming up, I will leave a link to Twitch in the description below. I'll also leave a link to my website below so that you can catch the Bellator live streams if you want to. That is available to all VIP and elite members. But for now, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. I'll be back with a live stream very, very soon. Who knows, I might even put another one out tonight. So take care, everybody. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch, and don't forget to check out my website this week, because I'll be live streaming all week. Hope you have a great night, guys. Take care and goodbye.